In this video, I'm going to be sharing books that promote diversity and inclusion. A lot of these are authored and illustrated by people living with rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile arthritis, and other chronic illnesses. I'm also going to be sharing some picture books and young adult novels that I think that many of you would be interested in. Stay tuned because that's coming all right up. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Effie. Welcome back to my channel where I discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of living with a chronic illness and other lifestyle topics. If that sounds cool to you, make sure to hit subscribe and the bell button to be notified every single time I post new content. And if you're new, make sure to check out the About section on my YouTube page where you can find a more detailed list of things you can expect to find on here. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some picture books and young adult novels that I own and have read myself. However, there are some that I have not read because I just haven't had the time yet, but I would like to, and I feel that they would be really beneficial for everyone watching to check out as well. So many of you may or may not know, I'm also working on a picture book, and I have connected with so many people throughout the years of me learning this craft, and it's just something I'm really passionate about, so I'm super excited to share all these books and more on my blog later on Rising Above RA. I'm actually curating a blog post currently with about 40 to 45 picture books and chapter books that have been written by people in the community that I have connected with on Facebook. So be on the lookout for that because this video doesn't, touch base on every book out there. My first book that I'm going to share, Arthritis in Motion. So this book follows a character named Smiley Riley, and she's diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and we're taken on her journey going to doctor's appointments, not being able to play with other kids because she's hurting, and she has a dream, and her dream is to go to Smiletropolis to be on the Smile Hall of Fame because she has such a beautiful smile and she doesn't have any friends or anyone that she can relate to, and on her journey she meets a boy and he kind of helps her through her journey. And so it's like seeing if she is going to achieve this dream or not, even though she has all these obstacles and challenges in front of her. So it's a really positive book. I highly suggest, if you are a parent, getting this, even if your child doesn't have juvenile arthritis, because in this book, like I said, they feature other children who ask her to play and she tells them no, and I don't know if they necessarily understand right away, and she has to explain to people things, and then it kind of talks about how you can transform your own experiences, even though they're negative, into positive to help other people. The second book I want to talk about is Alex the Kid Talks About Juvenile Arthritis, and this is through a boy's perspective. While I just shared Smiley Riley, it's really nice to have a story from a male's point of view, which is also important because, as we know, more women than men are diagnosed with autoimmune inflammatory arthritis to begin with. And so this is authored by someone who actually was diagnosed and is living with juvenile arthritis as well. I believe he's in college now, or maybe has graduated, but that's what the bio had said. And this book basically takes us on a journey with Alex as he goes to school, and he talks about how he's just like every other kid, except he has one thing that other kids don't, and that's juvenile arthritis. Kind of go on his daily journey in a way where he describes what he does with other kids and his family and his friends, but then he also has to go to the doctor and do all these things, and he's at school explaining to the other kids what he has. So this is also a really good educational tool type of book, in addition to Smiley Riley, because even at the end here, he provides resources for parents, question and answers if kids and parents want to learn more. My favorite part of the book is when he talks about his injections and how they hurt, and then he goes for chocolate chip ice cream afterwards and how he's brave and he has a little Superman suit on. Smiley Riley also has a little Superman suit in hers. The next book is called Taking Arthritis to School. This is probably the most technical educational book of them all because of the simple fact that there's just so many tips for parents and kids, but also teachers. So here at the end of the book, they have 10 tips for teachers and what they can do to help a student and a parent who is having a child just diagnosed with juvenile arthritis, or they may be living with it already and attending school. They have also a quiz in here for kids to take after they read the story to see if they learned anything and how they're applying it. So in this story, we follow a little boy named Eric, and he says that arthritis is just one part of him. It's not all of him, and he's just like every other kid. You know, this is just a kid riding his bike with his helmet on. So if other kids read this who don't have juvenile arthritis and they come in contact maybe with a kid who has that at school, they will be more aware. One thing I thought was really beautiful in this book is that they actually show Alex in a wheelchair because his right hip was inflamed, which I haven't seen yet in any other book. And so I feel like this is a really good testament to show kids that you can be riding your bike with your helmet on, but also then be in a wheelchair because your hip is inflamed. And so here's the page of that book where he discusses how, you know, there's good and bad days and there can be unexpected problems, and how he has a nurse come to his house and he has his little pet dog keep him company. And I don't want to ruin the end of the book, but at the end he discusses things that help him with his arthritis, which is resting, eating well, exercising, and what he plans to do in the future. The next book I want to talk about was authored by a mom living with a chronic illness. And this book takes on the perspective of an adult whose child is not living with a chronic illness. The title of this book is Why Mommy Hurts. And I don't know if you guys can see it here, but at the bottom here it says, helping children cope with challenges of having a caregiver with chronic pain, fibromyalgia, and autoimmune disease. So this book takes us on a journey with the little boy whose mom is living with chronic illness, and he is aware, his name is Jimmy, that his mom has chronic pain and what the disease is. And he even says here on the second page, she has a disease called fibromyalgia. And they spell that out for the child so they can easily read that, because it is a long word. It can probably be hard for even adults to even say it fast sometimes. One of my favorite parts of this book is when Jimmy explains that his mom takes care of him when he's sick, even though she may not be feeling well herself. And he talks about ways he helps her around the house. And then also they go to the park, and sometimes she may not be able to go play with him, and so his dad goes. So this is kind of just his journey, feeling all the emotions of his mom being sick and helping her and just being there for her. And at the same time, she's also there for him. So it's just a really beautiful story about a mother and a son. And there's also resources at the end of this book. It's called The Parents Corner, tips and resources, and just a bunch of other things. Noah the Narwhal, A Tale of Downs and Ups. And it's by an author who also experiences migraines. And so this is actually the advanced reader's copy. This follows Noah, and it's more of an adult protagonist character where he goes to work and he has to call in sick because one day he's not feeling well, but the other days he was. And then his boss doesn't really understand him, doesn't believe him because he was feeling fine the day before. And then his sister doesn't believe him. And so it's just a journey about basically how chronic illness is not understood by those around us when we have good days and bad days. You may be able to work, 8-hour days, and then all of a sudden you're not. And then you may be able to go out for a movie or enjoy a cupcake with a friend, and then you're not able to anymore. So this is basically what the story talks about, and that it says it in the title, A Tale of Downs and Ups. I like how she had her little wordplay here with the downs and ups instead of saying ups and downs, because living with chronic illness, let's face it, there are a lot of downs, but then there's a lot of ups. So I think she focused on, not necessarily the negative aspect of chronic illness, but the reality and the realness of it. And this is a really great book. The illustrations are so cute. I'm going to try to find one here that I can possibly show you guys that I think is the cutest one. Is when Noah goes to work and his friend Nikki gives him a squid cupcake because he was supposed to go to a movie with her, and he wasn't feeling well, and she just felt that he ditched her. And so he just, in this scene, he's surprised because she kind of gives a peace offering, an olive branch, if you will, and she says that I value our friendship and it shouldn't change when you don't feel well and all these other things. So I thought that was a really nice, way of showing that, friends and family and those who care about you will still stick around. One of my other favorite ones is a traditionally published book, and this is called Frankie Frog and the Throaty Croakers. This is the cover. You can see like the detailed artwork here. It's just really beautiful. And what I've noticed is that, like, even if I'm showing this to you guys right now, where I'm having the images pop up in the corner, seeing it in person does more justice than looking it up online. So keep that in mind when you do look up books, that when you see them in person, they're actually much better. So this follows a little frog who can't croak, and everyone else in the pond and the lake can croak, and he doesn't really know what to do about it because he's been living with this since he's been little, and he tries all these different methods and nothing works, and we see his parents kind of concerned about him and everything else. And then he just goes on this little adventure trying to find a way to croak and make some noise because everyone else is doing so except him. And then, you know, this book is like something that you would have to read and find out, because if I say anything, it would probably ruin the story. It's just one of those things where you go page by page, and it's like a page turner because you want to know what happens to Frankie. My most favorite part is when he is looking out the window one night and he wishes that he can croak. And then he hears a magical sound. And that sort of takes him on this journey of trying to find a way to adapt and get creative. Another traditionally published book is something that I've had in my house for a long time. I'm not exactly sure how we ended up getting this book, because this is a book about Alzheimer's. It's written by Maria Shriver, and so it's called What's Happening to Grandpa. And it basically takes us on a journey of, while the grandpa doesn't have memory loss quite yet, there's a possibility in the story that he may not remember his grandchild, and so she's just, you know, trying to learn so much about his story and his life. And I really feel it's a beautiful book about grandparents and their grandkids and what we can learn from our grandparents and establishing a relationship with them while they're here and all that stuff. So I think this is a really good book to have for your kids, to just, you know, even let them know that connecting with their grandparents is a beautiful blessing, and if they have them around, to not shy away from having conversations with them. So this book I supported on Kickstarter, and it's called Soar, and it's by a fellow author friend. And it's about a girl who's being bullied by other girls at school, and then she goes on a magical adventure and she finds this tree, has a little door inside. And after finding this tree, she goes on this magical adventure, and then she's transformed into someone totally different in terms of sticking up for yourself, being brave, having confidence. And the cutest thing about this book is that the author provides the readers with a little stardust. So here it's attached to the top of the book. I thought that was a really cute addition. I'm not really sure if people who buy this book on Amazon will be provided this little stardust thing. So the next two books I wanted to share quickly are authored and written by people diagnosed and living with juvenile arthritis, and I've happened to come across them on social media. I don't personally own them. I've never read them. However, I do want to. They are on my book list, and one of them is called Great Like You, and it's by Erica Grace. You can find her on Instagram under Great Like You, and it's basically a chapter book, I would say. It's not necessarily a picture book, but it's more for kids who are a little older, and it helps them through their hospital stay or overcoming any obstacle. Another traditionally published book that I wanted to talk about is called Cursed, and it was written by Carol Silverstein. She's been living with juvenile idiopathic arthritis for years. It's an award-winning book, and they say for fans of The Fault in Our Stars, you would really like this book. And it follows a girl named Ricky Bloom, and she's 14 years old, and it's her journey living with a chronic illness. Also Sick Kids in Love, which was written by someone living with chronic illness. And the last two I want to share are just really like fun ones and also inspirational in many respects. And this one, I would say it's more of the fun one, and it's something I supported on Kickstarter not too long ago. Create a Halloween book. And since it's October 2nd, I figured that I would pull this out from my own library and share it with you guys, because with the whole pandemic and everything else going on, this is probably going to be our first Halloween having to deal with the social distancing rules, and I don't think it's really ever going to be the same this year in regards to trick-or-treating and all that stuff. So, getting a little book for your kids about Halloween, I think is really nice. This isn't in relation to chronic illness or anything. And I also want to mention about the 5 feet apart. I think it's really something to check out because it's indicative a little bit, weirdly enough, of the times that we're living in now. We have seen the movie. It's about people living with cystic fibrosis, and they need to stay at a certain distance and sometimes even wear masks, because if they don't, they could die. And if you find yourself moaning and groaning or complaining, or you find someone else, just realize that there's people out there who really have to do this 365 days, 24/7, or else their life's at risk. So, think about that next time, about what maybe other people are going through in the world, and even pick up this book or watch this movie so you can really maybe put yourself in their shoes. Last but not least is a children's picture book that talks about immigration, and it's called Pete Comes to America. And I actually had the chance to connect with this author who wrote this. I met them through a Facebook group that I'm part of, and she was gracious enough to say that she wanted to give me a copy. So this story goes back to 1910 when her, I believe, great-grandfather, Pete, came to America, and it shows the transition between your old life back in your country versus the new one that you're going to. And she does a beautiful job, I believe, of really showing the nostalgia and the struggle that many families had to endure when they gave up living in their country for, quote-unquote, the American dream, which right now in our time, it's more of the American Horror Story, to be honest. But this is also a beautiful book because it brings us back to why many people came to America to begin with, and why it's so important now to create change, and positive change, that is. And since this is more of like a nonfiction picture book where it's based on something that's true, she includes all her family photos and dating back to 1936, and I think that was really interesting, learning like the history of someone else's family. And with Pete Goes to America, it comes from a Greek-American perspective, in that Pete, he actually immigrates from Greece to America, and so I felt that was really relatable for me. However, I feel that this story is timeless in the fact that it can relate to all, and I'm sure that many of us have had stories of our ancestors immigrating either to America or other parts of the world. They also have another version called Panayotis Goes to America, and that's basically Peter or Paul in Greek. So if you are Greek and you're watching this and you want to get that, they also have that version as well. And so with that being said, I wanted to share one last news tidbit that I found out recently on Twitter. So there's this hashtag called Spoony Writes or Spoony Writer, and there's some people who are trying to get that going who are chronically ill but also creatives. And so if you are on Twitter or Instagram, make sure to use the hashtags Spoony Writes and Spoony Writer, and when you click on them, you can connect with other people in the community who may be writers working on a book themselves, and just connect with like-minded people, because I feel that's what's helped me the most on my journey, is talking to people who've been there and done that, are really experienced, but then also those who are also on the journey with me from the beginning. And before we go, I wanted to announce my Spoony Star Supporter of the Week. I chose someone this time from YouTube. For the past several videos, I've been pulling random names from Instagram of people who've been showing me love and support on there. So this time I just wanted to change it up and give a shout out to someone over on my YouTube channel. So here they are. Thank you so much for showing me love and support. And just a reminder, if you want to be featured on my next video, all you need to do is stay active on my Instagram and YouTube channel. That's all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it informative and educational in some way, and you come out maybe buying a book this weekend or whatever. So yeah, until next time guys, bye!